Hi, in this video, we're going to talk about this new AI application or system called Deepseek. And for some context, the reason why I'm even talking about this is because yesterday, so today's January 28th, yesterday, NVIDIA dropped 17% because supposedly Deepseek sparked all this global panic around AI, particularly because Deepseek exposed or claimed that to train their AI, it was like 5% of the cost that it cost to train ChatGPT or OpenAI. So the implications of this is that somehow China figured out how to make things cheaper than the United States again. But the problem with this is that the valuation of the tech companies like NVIDIA, like most of the software companies where most of the speculation about its value has to do with what AI is going to do and how AI is going to change the world and how their chips, the NVIDIA chips, are powering all this AI craziness. The fact that China somehow figured out how to do it, for a fraction of the price, it's a huge deal. So within that context, what I want to do, and I actually haven't even tested this, so I'm recording this live as you also kind of watch me do it, is I'm going to kind of take an accounting application and I'm going to, by application, I mean an accounting example, and put it to the test with ChatGPT versus Deepseek and see how accurate and also how fast either one is. So for some context, I am in the paid version of ChatGPT, which is using the R1 model. So I pay $20 a month for ChatGPT Plus. There's also the Pro model, which is $200 a month. Which I pay for also, but we're not going to test it against that. I'm going to test it, try to get as much apples to apples comparison. So we're going to be using the R1 model, which is available in the Plus edition only. Just a quick note, the free edition of ChatGPT also has access to the R1 model, but very limited number of chats per day. So we're going to go ahead and ask it a question. And for some other additional context, if you watch some other my videos in my YouTube channel, I am mostly focused around how these tools affect accountants and how accountants can use these tools to improve their life and their workflow. But right now, I'm going to ask a question that basically possibly a small business owner, like one of our clients, would also ask the AI. And I'm really mostly interested on whether or not this Deepseek is good enough to compare with ChatGPT. And because it's free, the other challenge here is, will small business owners flock to using Deepseek and other free AI tools and stop using their accountants, for example? That's kind of the premise here. So the question here is, I have a client that's married filing jointly, $100K in W-2 for him, $120,000 W-2 for her, Schedule C taxable income of $90,000. She's got a K-1 for $278,000. He has a K-1 as a general partnership for $76,000. There's $21,000 in self-employment health insurance. 2 Schedule E properties making $4,000 each on rent. 1 child born in 2024, not daycare expenses. And then they paid $50K in W-2 federal withholding and $27K in estimated taxes. What's their tax liability? So just kind of imagine that a small business owner, instead of hiring their accountant to do tax planning and kind of see where they are in their tax preparation, they have at their fingertips, in their phone saying, hey, I make this much money, this much money, this much money. How much taxes am I going to pay? And how much estimated taxes I should pay? I'm thinking kind of in the near future where the average American basically just uses the AI phone app to do what they used to pay accountants to do. So that's essentially what I'm going to test out. So I'm going to grab the exact same question on the ChatGPT side and paste it on the Deepseek side, and I'm going to hit send on both. And we're going to look at 2 things. One, we're going to look at speed, so how quickly both of these process, and both of these are in Deepthink or high reason mode, which takes a lot longer than the standard ChatGPT that you may get used to, especially if you've been using the free versions. So you're going to see it take a little bit longer. And I'm actually going to put a timer at the top so you can actually see how long it takes. And if there's a lot of waiting, I'll just edit the video in such a way, but we can actually time how long it actually takes for both of them to come up with a conclusion. So that's speed. And then secondly, we're going to look at the end result and we're going to see how far off they are. Now, I'm not going to verify this. The best way to verify this is to actually plug this in a tax return software. So if you're an accountant, CPA that does tax returns, do me a favor, grab this scenario, put it on your tax return software, and go in the comments and tell me exactly what the tax liability your software says, so we can also judge how far off this goes. So let's go this. I'm gonna hit send and then send. Okay, so I hit send on both, and I'm gonna explain a little bit what's going on, and then I'll just fast forward until the ending. So on the left-hand side, you see thinking. On the right-hand side, you also see thinking. You can actually collapse that thinking and not have to actually see the details. So you actually have the choice of seeing the details, seeing the thinking, or simply just waiting. So on the left-hand side, it says here, gathering the details. There's thinking going on, but you don't get to see it until you click on it. Once you click on it, you actually see it's thinking. So there's no answers yet here. This is just it's thinking. This is reasoning, what they're calling reasoning. So this is the left-hand side. This is ChatGPT. On the right-hand side, I'm going to expose that, and I'm going to open that up, and then you can see how it reasons or how it thinks, or Deepthink, how they're saying it. So you see that it actually extrapolates the information and writes it all down. And it does a lot of this. Let me clarify. Let me double check. Let me triple check. It does a lot of that. Deepthink is interesting because it sort of checks its own work. And you can actually read through and see everything that it's doing. So this is its own reasoning. And the reason why it takes so long really is because it goes back and double check the work, double check the math. So both of these are thinking, quote unquote. So at this point, I will just fast forward the video until the end. Okay, so at this point, Deepthink finished, and it came up with a tax liability of $173,481. Now, right off the bat, I could tell you, I don't think it took into account the prepaid taxes. We actually said in the instructions what they have already paid. My question was, what is their tax liability? So I wasn't very clear on that part. The other thing that's really interesting is Deepthink, I think it has not been updated with 2024 information. So it's actually saying that it's assuming that the 2023 brackets and the 2024 brackets are similar. Okay, now on the left-hand side, we see that it's finishing answering on the left-hand side. So it's almost done there. So let's see what it comes up with. So it came up with 173,000 without the prepayments, and it also assumed that 2023 tax brackets are similar to 2024. So that just reason to believe that Deepseek is not as updated as ChatGPT. So that's kind of one negative point for Deepseek. But at the end, if the estimate is fairly similar, we are going to draw a very similar conclusion. Okay. So the left-hand side, or ChatGPT, it's almost done. And they both came up with a very similar number. See, ChatGPT says 173,936. And then Deepseek says 173,481. Interestingly enough, it actually took into account ChatGPT, what was already prepaid. And then it says what the liability due is. I think with this one, we can just ask reduce the prepayment. So it would just be sort of one last step to tell it to reduce the prepayments. It could do that. That's probably the easiest math that it could ever do. And it shouldn't do that much deep reasoning. It should just do that. So I think at least from an accuracy perspective, they both seem such a complex question that has a lot of moving parts, like tax. Tax has a lot of moving parts. They both seem to perform about the same. Now, one thing that's worth doing is we're going to grab the exact same question and we're going to ask not the reasoning engine, we're going to ask the ChatGPT, the fastest version of ChatGPT, which is this one called O1 Mini or regular 4.0, and then we can actually time both of these. So let me start 4.0, which doesn't have the reasoning, and ask it, and I'm going to hit send, and I'm just going to maximize this for a second because we're not looking at Deepseek anymore. We're just checking timing in this case. So let's see how quickly it gives me the answer, and if it gets me that accurate, that much accuracy without necessarily jumping into the reasoning mode. Now, this is in theory the fastest version of ChatGPT, the 4.0 model. This one concluded 155,000, which is much different than the last 173,000. I have reason to believe that the 173,000 is closer to being accurate. Let's try now the O1 Mini, which is the reasoning, but it's a little bit faster. So let's just time this one. Wow, this Mini is fast. There we go. So this one actually came up with 191,000. So that's kind of weird. Okay. The first reasoning model went to 173. Deepseek went to 173 as well. I guess I still kind of think that 173 might be the correct one. So this one maybe have rushed it or missed a step in the process somewhere. Let's try a different AI model. I'm going to go into Claude and see what Claude calculates, and we'll time that as well. And I think it's important to use their best model too. So this is the best model that Claude has, the Sonnet. So we'll time this one as well. So let's see what Claude is actually telling me in this particular case, that the total tax is 206,000, and without the withholding is 129,000. So all these AIs are sort of all over the place. Claude was the fastest, but I wonder if that was accurate. Let's ask one more. This one's called CPApilot, which is actually designed to work only for accounting concepts. So let's see if CPApilot gives me any better answers. By the way, CPApilot is actually, it runs through OpenAI, so it uses the same engine as ChatGPT. They just, they created these processes where they give it specific guidance on how it uses to calculate the information. So let's see if CPApilot does anything different. So we'll hit send, and let's just do a federal via IRS, and let's see what it does. So CPApilot is giving me 157,000, which is a little bit closer. Let's go back to ChatGPT here. It's actually a little bit closer than the ChatGPT 4.0 calculation, which gave me 155,000. We're gonna try one more. This one's called TaxGPT, also similar to CPApilot. We're gonna do the exact same thing. We're gonna go ahead and ask the same question and hit send. And I think it's just fair to try all the different AI applications that are out there. Now, both CPApilot and TaxGPT are mostly focused around helping accounting professionals. So the average small business owner wouldn't buy TaxGPT to research and do this sort of thing. It would be more common for a small business owner to use something like ChatGPT or even Deepseek to come up with answers. So this one, okay, let's see what the answers are here. Okay, still working through. Let's see what happens. This one's saying there's 159,000, the total tax liability minus the 77. So these guys are all hovering around that 150 to 173 number. If this is inaccurate, then obviously it's meaningless, right? If it's not accurate, it doesn't work. If it's within $5,000, I guess I'm generally okay. But a $20,000 swing, I wouldn't be okay with that. The focus here was mostly to figure out speed. I'm sure accuracy is something that they'll figure out, but speed is one of those things that really have a lot of people thinking about this really hard. There's another kind of experimental tool called Groq. This is actually a chip company, a computer company, and really what the Groq website does is for you to test the speed of how quickly it runs, and it could be using ChatGPT or it could be using different models. So let's see how Groq comes up with an answer, and I'll log in here really quick. And we're going to assume that Groq's going to be super fast because it's always known as being just really, really fast. So let's see what it comes up with. Look how quickly it came up with an answer. And this one came up with tax liability of 74,000. I wonder if it's already applying to 77. So this one's giving me 151,000. So that's interesting enough. This one is based on Meta. So this one's using Llama for testing purposes. I know you used to be able to switch, here, the model. You can switch which model it can use. So in this case, it was using Llama, the Facebook's model, Meta model. So that gives me a good general idea. Let's test Google as well. Let's see. Let's go look at Gemini and see what Gemini gives us. So this is Google Gemini. Let's see how quickly it goes and the kind of answer that it gives me. And again, why I'm doing all this, we're testing speed, we're testing accuracy, but most importantly, we're trying to figure out if we should be freaking out about the Deepseek, a Chinese company, doing this better than the American companies, right? I mean, look, there's Google already. It was super fast. Let's see what kind of answer it gives me. So let's go here somewhere. Where's my Google answer? Oh, Google actually says that it's impossible to do it. That's actually pretty interesting, saying that it needs to know more information. So it actually gets sort of halfway there, but it doesn't seem to fully be able to compute. I'm going to try a different version of Google. It's called AI Studio. And this one is using the new model, which is called Gemini 2.0, supposed to be the best version of Gemini. So we're going to select that one, and I'm going to ask it the same question and see if it actually can answer. So Gemini, the regular Gemini that I actually pay for, couldn't even come up with an answer. It said it was impossible. We'll see if this one can. I assume that it actually can. So let's see what this comes up with. Okay. So somewhere here is right here, total tax liability 152 minus the 77. It's also worth mentioning Perplexity. Now the cool thing is that these Deepseek is also available in AI tools like Perplexity that allow you to choose which model you want to use. So in Perplexity now, which is one of the most popular engines as well, you can choose whether you want the O1 with reasoning or the Deepseek, which is really interesting. So we're going to ask Perplexity the same question and hit send and time that. So here's Perplexity's answer, much quicker, by the way, really interesting. And we get around 170 something thousand minus the 70 something thousand that was prepaid. So what I like about this is you don't have to use the Deepseek website. You could also use tools like Perplexity, and there's many other like Perplexity that will use other engines to sort of run and calculate. So back to Deepseek for a second. For the sake of fairness, we're going to ask the same question, but not click on this Deepthink R1 option. That way it goes a little bit quicker, and then we can see what the results are. So interestingly enough, it was a little bit faster, but it did come up with a whole different number, right? So 135,000 now, which, obviously minus the 77,000, but it's kind of way off. And obviously at this point, we don't know what to trust, right? So once again, best way to get the real answer is to actually use professional tax preparation software and figure out what the number is. I'm going to do that offline after this video. But if you guys you have any accounting professionals watching this, go into the comments, do the calculation yourself, and tell me what your tax software says. There's certain numbers that you may have to assume, but based on this information, we concluded based on 5 different AI engines or 6 different AI engines that this taxpayer owes between 152 to 173,000 minus the 77 prepaid. Again, that's a really big swing, but it's important to check the speed and possibly not get so sensationalized, so freaked out about this new Deepseek. This is the first big version that we see. I mean, it's a huge release, huge splash, relatively fast, relatively accurate. Actually, the fastest compared to the deep thinking model that ChatGPT had. All the other ones weren't really deep thinking. So assuming that the 170 something thousand is the accurate number and not the 150 something thousand, then deep thinking or reasoning is required, which means you have to be on these paid versions, on these highest edition versions of ChatGPT. But Deepseek offers this for free. So I'll let you draw your own conclusions. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one.